The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Yeah, the game was probably defined by that first 25 minutes where we started really slowly. We weren't at the races. We couldn't quite get to grips with the game. Tactically, and also just the fact that we lost second balls. We couldn't get the ball down and control it. We couldn't come out of any of those tighter situations with the ball, and Bristol City just did that far better than us, and we got to grips with it after that, but it was just too little too late. There's probably a number of factors. There's always going to be a number of factors there. It's got to be a multitude of things. Ultimately, it's up to me, because I've got to set the side up in a certain way. I'm not talking about the tactical side of it. I'm just talking about the fact that whatever the message was, whatever we've done in the last couple of days, we've obviously gone out and produced that. So it's something that we have to have a serious look at. My take was that we'd be well primed to really get after Bristol City today, having stood here this time last week off the back of a really positive performance. So yeah, there's a lot of questions to answer. I haven't obsessed with the goal, because I thought that the goal was probably coming at that point, and we'd had a couple of warning shots before that, and we hadn't heeded them. And by the time Bristol City went a goal ahead, I thought they deserved to. So the goal is definitely something we'll look at, but I thought there were many other areas of the game that we need to improve at that point. We switched Seggs and Lange over to have a bit more control in terms of picking up seconds in the middle of the park and get the press right. We hadn't got the press right at that point, and ultimately, regardless of the tactical side of the game, it was about actually making sure that we competed, because we hadn't competed for 25 minutes. We'd lost 50-50s, we'd lost headers, we looked slow, we looked sluggish, and all of a sudden, it took that intervention after 25 minutes to get us going, and it's impossible for that to be the case. We just have to be right at it from the word go. Yep. It's not accessible. You can't get away with that in football. You just can't get away with having to wait for something to spark us into action, because ultimately, like today, it was just too late. That was a disappointment. The second half was a lot better, but ultimately we were chasing the game. Bristol City was sitting in at 1-0 down. We did have a couple of chances that we didn't put in the back of the net, which was unfortunate. But whether we did enough to get back in the game, I'm not sure. I thought we did have a couple of opportunities, but Bristol City did look positive on the counter attack as well. But the disappointment won't be anything that we did or didn't do in the second half. It's how we started the game. A bit of both. We had the enforced change at right back with Terry being suspended. We wanted to get a little bit more height and experience in the middle of the park, particularly with the fact that we were conceding so many set pieces. And I thought Lange, off the performance last week and not having played in the week, was primed to come back in.
Don't know about anybody else. I don't think I've ever heard John MOUSINHO sounding so deflated. It's very hard for a manager sometimes to come out and talk to the press immediately after a difficult game, and that was a very difficult game. And in a sense, we not only are not surprised to hear him so deflated, we would expect it, we would hope it, we would want it, we would demand it, because he needs to be feeling as bad as all the Pompey fans and the Pompey players feel, and he sure does. Probably feels it even more than anybody else, because he's the one ultimately who's got to do the most about it. And he's the one who was up until 2 a.m. when they got back from Bristol doing the analysis and messaging. I should think there's a particularly active WhatsApp group chat or some such with the coaches as they all pool their observations and their suggestions for how to get things going forward again. Because we must remember, we've taken 8 points from 5 games, our last 5 games. If we were to do that through the season, we'd end up with 70-something points, which would do. So in a way, we are in a good place. It's just that you can never get the last match out of your head compared to the match before that or the match before that. And the 4 matches ago almost seems like the dim and distant past. The memory of Bristol will burn bright, or dark, really, in all our hearts until things go one way or the other against Ipswich. So let's hurry up and get into that one.
Pompey stalwart Shock Shaughnessy says it was a bad day at the office.
It's a difficult one to sum up. It's a disappointing day for us. We know that's not the standard we want to set out. The good thing is that we've got another game in a few days' time, and we'll do everything we can to put it right against Ipswich on Sunday. It's a difficult one, probably need to sit down and analyse it tomorrow. I'm sure the gaffer and the analysts will go over it this evening and will watch over it, but straight off the back of that, it's hard to say what exactly went wrong. They were clearly the better side today, and let's not try and get too down and pick ourselves up for Ipswich. Again, we know it's a bad day at the office, there's no two ways about that, we know how bad that was, and it's not good enough from all of us, as a collective. We saw a few nights ago we all win together, and we all lose together, that's the ups and downs of football. We are all in this together. It's frustrating no matter when it happens or how it happens. It's a bad day at the office. We've had a good little run, we put together some good results over the last couple of weeks. Bad day, but a quick turnaround, and we've got another game on Sunday that we can put it right.
Well, talk about the highs and lows of football. There in 48 hours, was it, or 72 hours? Shaughnessy experiences the high of that thumping header against Charlton, then the even higher high of Pompey getting the winner in the 98th minute with the last kick of the game, when everybody thought we'd have to settle for a draw. Such elation. And then 72 hours later, having to help pick the ball out of the net 5 times. And he's talking about it being a bad day at the office. OK, you can have a one-off bad day. Let's hope that's what that turns out to be. But everybody seems to be getting excited about the prospect of going to Ipswich and turning everything round. It's just worth remembering that Ipswich are enjoying a purple patch at the moment. They are 1 point clear of everybody else chasing Coventry in the league. They just did us a favour by beating Oxford, whilst we were picking the ball out of the net against Bristol. And before that, of course, Ipswich went to Coventry, probably the undisputed best team in the Championship at the moment, and beat them. And I think their previous game they drew with Millwall. So they're in good form, and they're on a kind of a roll. So it ain't going to be easy on Sunday, is it? But we can only hope. We can only hope that we're in for another Charlton rather than a Bristol. I'm sure Shocks is with us on that one.
John MOUSINHO says he isn't throwing teacups.
There's plenty of mitigating factors for it. In terms of where we are as a squad at the minute, it was a game too far. The other night we patched things together and produced a positive result, after some decent performances and results. This one was just too much for us. There is still plenty we can do out there that's better. We need to be much better as a coaching staff and players. It's ultimately one where everything went wrong on the day. There's so much more we need to do in response to going a goal down. The first goal was a brilliant goal, there was nothing we could really do about that, but our response wasn't good enough. It deflated us, and we just didn't respond well enough at all. It's not my lowest point as Pompey boss actually, because I can understand why that has happened and where we are. Any group losing that amount of frontline players wouldn't cope particularly well. We saw that it was too much for us, it was physically too much for us, we didn't look solid when we pressed and we looked exposed. It was one of those tough days. The players know we weren't good enough, and we got things wrong as a coaching staff as well. I could go and lose the plot with them, it won't change how they feel. The group is trying extremely hard, but things aren't quite good enough. The effort levels are there, but we've come unstuck. I could throw teacups, but I don't think that actually helps the group at the minute. We have to try to stay as positive as possible, while maintaining realism.
He mentions the teacups twice. Do they still serve tea at half-time and full-time in the changing rooms after the game? Used to be the case that somebody, used to be a tea lady, used to wheel in a trolley before the players arrived and started taking their shorts off, obviously, and they would leave on a table in the middle of the changing room 20 cups and saucers and an enormous pot of tea and some milk and some sugar, because players used to like a cup of hot sweet tea and they thought the energy and the sugar was good for you. That was a long time ago. Isn't it all energy drinks now? Or water? I don't know. But back to the game, we should spend a minute, all of us, thinking about their first goal, Bristol's first goal. Does that go down as conceding to a set piece? It was a 25-yard shot from outside the area, which took a slight nick. I think it was on Devlin. Probably would have troubled Schmidt enormously one way or another. As it was, that deflection took it right into the top corner and there was no point in him even jumping for it. But does that count as a concession of a goal at a set piece that we were defending? Because we did the difficult bit, which is getting our head on the ball first and making a solid header of the ball away. I guess the thing was that there was not one but two white shirts lurking outside the box for that very eventuality. And we didn't have anybody there to close them down, because you want to have as many of your own men in the 6-yard box as possible when defending a a corner because the general consensus is, amongst the experts, the more bodies you have in the box, the less likely there is to be a goal. However, will we in future see Pompey putting a man on the edge of the area when we are defending a free kick? I mean, you know, bless him, Adrian Segicic is perfectly built to be somebody who doesn't take a great part in corners. And we've got actually a couple of players like that who aren't going to make a great deal of difference at corners. I know Joe Morrell used to do that job for Pompey because he would be the first to admit that at 5'5", 5'6", whatever he wasn't going to be much use unless they were going to sling in a flat corner, which happens, but it's so rare you really can't plan for it, just be alert to it. Well, we didn't have anybody being alert to the two Bristol players who presumably had practiced this eventuality and who knew where the top corner was if they had an opportunity to steady themselves and fire a shot through all those bodies. So again, something else for our set-piece folk to work on. They'll have been busy over Christmas and the New Year.
With the January transfer window now open, it looks like Pompey are already making moves. The latest name linked with a switch to Fratton Park is Brighton midfielder Andrew Moran. The rumour comes from BBC's Chris Wise, who reports that the Blues have inquired about the Republic of Ireland international, as John MOUSINHO looks to strengthen his squad for the second half of the season. Moran, who joined Brighton from Irish side Bray Wanderers in 2020, has made one senior appearance for the Premier League club. The 22-year-old just recently returned to England after a loan spell in the MLS with Los Angeles FC, where he played 10 games and helped them reach the quarter-finals. But it's his extensive championship experience that will likely catch the eye. He's no stranger to the league, having played 35 times for Blackburn Rovers 2 seasons ago, grabbing 2 goals and 6 assists. Pompey fans might remember him from his loan at Stoke last season, perhaps not too fondly. Moran featured 35 times for the Potters, and even scored their 6th and final goal in that painful 6-1 drubbing at the Bet365 Stadium. On his social media, Wise confirmed that Pompey had asked about Moran, but warned that he'll have several options, so there will be competition for his signature. It's unclear whether Pompey are looking for a loan or a permanent deal, but with Moran under contract at Brighton until 2028, a loan seems more likely. The interest makes sense, especially with summer midfield signings like John Swift, Mark Kosnowski and Luke Leroux yet to fully hit their stride. Moran is clearly a player Brighton rates highly. While he was in the US, Brighton boss Roberto De Zerbi had nothing but praise for him, saying, "Andrew is a player I really like, because I think he has an unbelievable attitude. It doesn't surprise me that he's doing that well because he's a great lad, a great football player, and I hope that he continues in this shape."
Andrew Moran is a competent, capable, attacking midfielder who also can play wide. He is a very responsible young man, as we heard. He was captain of Ireland's under-15s. He's had his debut as a full international for the Republic of Ireland. He's played over 70 championship matches for Stoke and Blackburn. And being as he's been with Brighton and Hove Albion for many years, but only one appearance so far, it could be that he has based himself down on the south coast and therefore might find a move, either temporary or permanent, to Pompey quite attractive. Transfer Market have valued him, and this is only a guesstimate of course, but they valued him at 3.5 million, which probably would be out of our league at the moment, but a loan deal is perfectly possible, and the manager has said that he is interested in 2 or possibly 3 more loan players coming in.